everybody. This is BK International Talent Scout. I'm on the phone lines with Breanna Spriggs, and she's written a book called The Church That Heals. Today, we're going to be talking about church hurt. We're also going to be talking about how to overcome church hurt. Now, I was referred to Breanna Spriggs. Is that how you say it, Breanna Spriggs?
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Okay, I was referred to her by someone on the internet. I was going to do this whole series called Murder in the Church House. And then I just sparked so much trauma and I got so much feedback. People were inboxing me, and then somebody that I know, they said, I think you ought to interview somebody that I know. So I took them up on the offer, and here we are.
Here we
Breanna,
are.
say hello to everyone. How are you doing today, Breanna?
I am doing wonderful on this beautiful Saturday. And look, shout out to Pastor Pamela for the referral. So I appreciate being here and having the opportunity to have the conversation.
Yeah, Pastor Pamela, she does a men conference and she
Yeah.
does a women conference. So she does some incredible things, and she's also a big fan of the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Okay, all right. So let's just talk about church hurt before we get into your book. How do you view and feel about church hurt?
Um, I feel like church hurt, first of all, is just hurt that happens within church spaces or in the context of church. You know, a lot of people say, well, the church didn't hurt you, a person did. However, a lot of times when church happens in the church, when hurt happens in the church setting, is not the same as just somebody hurting your feelings or somebody offending you, because your guard is down in the church setting in a different way. You're more vulnerable in spiritual spaces and you have more trust for people who claim to be Christians or spiritual leaders. So that's what to me sets church hurt apart. But it's very real and it happens a lot. It's actually happening more and more these days, I find.
Oh, wow. For me, church hurt goes very deep. I'm a Kojic baby. I came out of my mama's womb and I was in a Kojic church. My dad was a Kojic pastor. My mom was a Kojic missionary. I'm just Kojic, Kojic, Kojic. So that's
To the
why they
bone.
call me a Kojic. Yeah, I'm a Kojic baby. But there's some things that happened in my family that really tore our family apart because my father, he was a Kojic pastor. He had good jobs, but he used to physically abuse my mom and then go preach at church, or he would go drink and then go preach at church. So it was a lot going on in my life from even when I was in my mom, my dad used to beat my mom, punch her
Wow.
in the stomach, kick her in the stomach. So my church trauma goes back to before I was even born.
Wow.
My mom endured 19 years of an abusive relationship. Before that, my mom was cool outside of Little Rock, Arkansas. She was a tomboy, could shoot a gun. Then she got saved. We used to say, Mom, you got soft when you got saved. Because my mom used to shoot guns, rifles, fight, climb trees, do the whole nine, cook food and everything. Then she met my dad, and then she got saved, and everything kind of went downhill from there. But anyway, that's why church hurt is like really real for me. So a lot of times
Yeah.
I go off But let's get back into this interview. I just wanted you to get insight of why I'm so passionate about church hurt and
Absolutely.
also helping people overcome church hurt. Uh, how do you see, what are some of the steps? What are some of the beginning steps that a person can do to overcome church hurt?
Well, one of the biggest things is to acknowledge how you're feeling, and that is that could be simple, but it could also be complicated because oftentimes when a person says that they're hurt, the church is not always receptive to hearing people say that. So a lot of people may shy away from saying that they are hurt. One of the things, but I think it's a catch-22 because what happens is if somebody is hurt, say if it's a small offense, okay, the Bible talks about how small foxes destroy the vine. So it may not be this huge offense that happens in church. It could be something that happens just between two individuals, or just something that we would consider that can be worked out. But however, if a person is unwilling to admit that they are offended or admit that they are hurt, well, that hurt could fester and it could grow and grow into bigger offenses. So acknowledging that you're dealing with that hurt is the first thing. And you can make attempts to reconcile with the person. It's important to know the difference of what can be reconciled and what can't. There are some things that can be worked out between two sisters, two brothers in Christ. And there are some things that may go deeper than that. So when you experience what you experienced was things within your family that ultimately were sending you two different messages about what a man of God was supposed to be. And what you saw was my dad lives a double life, yet the church still reveres him. And so that's a different level of healing takes place there, because you actually have to go to God to ask God, Lord, purify the way that I'm supposed to see this, because I've gotten two totally different messages about what living for you is. And the trauma that's attached to all of the things that you witnessed and experienced. And so that's not necessarily a situation where it's like, okay, we could sit down with each other, hash it out. No, I have to go in and ask God to come into my heart and to actually heal the wounds that I received by getting mixed messages about what a man of God and what the church of God is. And forgiveness helps to overcome church hurt, because at the end of the day, the enemy always has two agendas when it comes down to hurt. He wants to keep the person who is the offender, he wants to keep them in that continual cycle of injuring people. But on the flip side, he wants to cause the person who has been hurt, he wants their heart to ultimately become hard against God. Some people say hard against the church and God, but I want to separate the two, because the enemy does not care what your relationship with the church is. And the reason I say that is because you have people who go to church every Sunday and they still bitter towards God and towards everything of the spirit. So the enemy just wants your heart to be far. And so forgiveness helps to reopen your heart to God. And it helps you to depend on the leadership of God in wisdom to know how to continue with a healthy church and to identify a healthy church. So that's some of it. I know that was a lot.
Oh yeah, that was good stuff right there. Um, let's do this. Cause sometimes people go, "Oh, BK, you're male bashing." Uh, let's talk about, and not all pastors are bad. Not all pastors are good. Pastors are individuals. They have their own hurt. But I'm not trying to patronize nobody and make excuses because sometimes people do
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about church hurt from a friendship perspective or church hurt outside of the church. Church people that hurt each other outside of the church building, outside of church, let's say church events.
Kind of
How
that
can two
community, yeah, the community type of stuff.
Yeah. How can two Christians overcome their church hurt? Whether it's a male, female, male, male, female, 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 male, male.
Okay. Well, one of the things I'll say this, that community church type of hurt, again, like those types of offenses and things like that, this is some of your most common, simply because we all are imperfect people trying to be in community with each other. And the best way to deal with that is how the word tells us to deal with it. The Bible talks about if you have an ought against your brother, to go to that person and talk about it. The Bible says if they don't hear you when it's just you and them, get two or three witnesses. And then after that, it actually tells you to bring it before the church. But they probably have other things, like if you have a leader or a pastor, or that you could actually sit and help them to judge between each of you. But going to each other is one of the first things. The Bible even said, like, hey, if you have something against your brother, ought against your brother in your heart, your prayers can be hindered. So it said, leave your gifts at the altar and go to that brother or sister, fix that first, and then you can come back to the altar and talk to God. I think a lot of times when you talk about community issues in the church, like you say, brother, brother, sister, 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 brother, all of those things, what ends up happening is things happen and then people continue on and they never go to the person whom they felt like hurt them. They never go and say, hey, sister, I didn't like what you said. Hey, I thought we were close. I felt like you could have come see me when I was in the hospital. You know, I I don't think you walked by me and you didn't speak to me. That hurt my feelings. Is anything else going on? And we never actually go to the person and have a conversation, but we sit with our own thoughts and we stew over it. And then to make matters worse, we'll go tell somebody else in the church, but we won't go to the person who hurt us. So, one of the biggest things to help those community things is to make sure that we're actually going to someone to talk it out when we're offended and learning how to reconcile those differences. And if you're the person who hurt somebody, instead of getting defensive, be open with your heart and be willing to reconcile with that person, repair that offense. I always say it really literally takes nothing to tell somebody, I'm sorry. I hurt you and I'm sorry. I was neglectful and I'm sorry. I left you out and I'm sorry. I forgot about you and I'm sorry. I was rash with my words and I'm sorry. And being able and being willing to do that, I think could eradicate probably a good 45% of situations that result in church hurt.
Can we talk about this? Let's go a little deeper because I want to bring in the concept of classism in the church and the power struggle in the church. And what really kind of happens is someone that's in a powerful position, they use their power to overdo what I say, a local congregant, someone that doesn't have a powerful position, someone that doesn't have support. And in many instances, let's take a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
Say you're the pastor, and this really happened to me at a church.
Okay.
So something happened, and so when we had the meeting, it was like two or three people on the pastor's side, and then this one brother, he was standing at the window, looking out the window. He was supposed to kind of like advocate for me and be on my side or be listening. So now you got a scenario of three against one. That ain't fair from the jump.
No.
That ain't fair from the jump. And the way I'm built, it depends on if I choose to be nice. Cause I can take on three. I can take on three. I can use my superpowers and take on three. Then it really gets nasty because the three are coming against the one to make the one feel bad. And according to how I feel, I, I'm ready to go to war. I'm ready to go. And see, that's real. And I'm not trying to be funny, but this is real things that be happening, the
Yeah,
power
yeah, you're not
struggles,
lying. Yeah, you're not
uh,
lying.
or 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 people be for the establishment, but not for the individual. But they drain the individual of what? All their money, all their power, all their energy, all their contacts. And then when something happens, then they want to try to silence them. Nigga, how you gonna silence me, man, when we both serving God? We both serving God. I'm being real with you now. If you don't want to be real, I can,
Yeah.
we can.
No, and look, let me tell you this. When you start talking, the examples that you're giving, these are things when people try to say it's not church hurt, it's people hurt. These are the things that we get into to where, okay, now you're talking about systematic, the system that has been set up that now becomes hurtful essentially to any and everybody in that system if they don't go along with how that system operates.
Right.
So now you're talking about a system that was built, a hierarchy that was built. So that means that if you have done something that was out of line with this particular system, well, we're going to bring you into a meeting. Let me say this, meetings are not bad things, but in unhealthy systems, meetings could be very harmful. And meetings have been weaponized against people. Like you said, if you walk into a meeting alone and you have three people on the other side of the table, that's automatically an imbalance of power. So,
Yes.
so things like that, the system is set up to where it's harmful, or, where people have done experience things like smear campaigns. So if I have this person that goes against this, well, then we're going to start putting things out negatively about them to discredit whatever it is that they have to say. Or they don't know what they're talking about. Or they just mad, or they just upset. So now what happens is the system builds a smear campaign. So what ends up happening is, again, you really hurt one of God's sons or daughters, and probably many of them, but also you essentially continue to feed the power that is of that system, which usually is marked by hierarchy, competition, um, man seeking to pretty much promote themselves, self-promotion. And the way that an individual would have to heal from that is, first of all, separation. Like, you really can't stay in a system like that. Um,
So
which
would you say that person has to leave the church and go get personal help?
definitely 100%. Like, and again, I always tell people when it comes down to leaving a church and things like that, I always say that that's something that should really be done with a lot of prayer. However, if the system is a constant, this is what happens. Say, for instance, if the system is a unhealthy system, right? And you have a person, now you're at war with that system. Well, I would ask, what's the point of staying? Because what's going to end up happening is the cycle of hurt and contention and strife is only going to continue, because you're not going to change that system. God is the one who has to deal with that system. You have to do what's
Right.
right, but in order to preserve your heart and your relationship with God. And so removing yourself from that system is pretty much wisdom, you know.
Right. Wow, we done came up on 20 minutes.
Yeah,
We done
easy,
come, this is supposed to be a 15, 20-minute interview.
easy, easy.
Wow, we didn't even get to your book. Oh my God, this kind of got deep.
Yeah.
Um, what would you like to do? Would you like to stop now and recalibrate?
I would say it's up to you. However you want to
Cause
however you want to
we
do.
went way deeper than I thought we was gonna go.
Yeah.
Why don't we stop and pause and take a little break and then come back and talk about your book? How about that? That might be the best thing to do.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
everybody, I'm here with Breanna Spriggs. She was referred by Pastor Pamela Michelle from Eastern Washington. Pamela Michelle, she does a men conference, she does a women conference, and she loves the Seahawks. Okay, everybody. Wow, this has been a great conversation, Brianna. You have really opened my eyes to church hurt and ways to overcome church hurt. Thank you for taking the time to calmly present your perspectives and opening up a way for people to easily communicate with you. There's some letters behind your name, LPC-S. Is that like a degree or?
That's I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor. So I'm
Oh,
in
okay,
ministry.
okay,
Yes, I'm in
okay, okay.
ministry, but I'm also a counselor.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, we got to shut this interview down. But when we come back, we're going to talk about your book. We're going to try to keep it low key. But man, this has been so amazing. Hello, everybody. This is BK International Talent Scout. We have to end this portion of the interview. We're going to take a break and come back, and we're going to talk about her book. What is the name of your book?
The church that heals.
The church that heals. We're going to talk about the physical church that heals, the mental church that heals, the community church that heals. And this book has been written and authored by Breanna M. Spriggs, and she was referred by Pastor Michelle of Eastern Washington. All right, we'll see you next week.